Hello, and welcome to a tutorial discussing on how to set up an AWS EC2 instance server based on Linux from a Windows machine. If you are not already there, head over to the AWS Management Console by clicking the icon in the top left. Now we can begin. We click this link to start the process. Here, we select an Amazon machine image, abbreviated as AMI. These images are configurations of various operating systems. As you can see, there are several images to choose from, ranging from simple Windows Server 2016 to Linux distributions such as Red Hat and Ubuntu. They even offer images based on Windows and Linux to cater to deep learning. Some of the paid versions come with SQL for managing databases with enterprise and standard versions. In this tutorial, however, a free Linux OS will be chosen. Amazon Linux is a good choice, and the first choice. This screen allows you to choose the type of instance you want. This determines the performance you would like from your virtual machine. Here we will be selecting the free version. If you want more performance, such as more CPUs, more RAM, more storage, and more network performance, such as for games or for websites that are going to have a lot of traffic, you might want to look at these larger options. They will cost money, but they will be worth it for your service. Configuring your instance includes some of the most important options available. You can decide how many you would like, referring to the number of instances, defining permissions via IAM roles, defining your own virtual private cloud, which allows you to configure subnet masks, IP names, and gateways. There are also some nice to haves, including how the server will behave if you were to shut down the OS, protect against termination, have monitoring services, dedicated options are available, and CPU performance options are available. This option allows you to choose between the dedicated and a shared hardware instance. Dedicated ones tend to perform better because, well, it's one task for one server instead of multiple tasks across other users on one server. T2 Unlimited allows you to run the CPU as fast as you can. If you go above a certain baseline, you will be billed by Amazon because you have a high CPU usage. This gets rid of that cap, but you will have to pay for it. Next, we add storage. Here, the amount of storage and the type of storage can be configured. Free accounts are limited to 30 gigabytes of storage, as read in this notification. Multiple volumes can be added with this button here, similar to how additional drives can be connected to a computer or additional partitions. Next, we look at adding tags. Taggings can be marked for your EC2 instance. This is similar to the IAM role, as tags in combination with the IAM policy can set permissions on what an instance can and cannot do. For example, you may want to have multiple test servers to experiment with code and production servers to store code used as part of an actual product. These can be labeled with tags. In this case, we don't really need to configure instances. We don't really need to configure tags because we're using a simple example here. And our storage is small because it's a simple example that we're going to be working with here. Next, we move on to security groups. Security groups establish how servers can be connected to. Here we will use two common protocols, SSH, Secure Shell, and HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Both of these go through TCP, they're established ports, and this allows you to choose which IPs can connect to these methods. So for SSH, you can choose from custom, anywhere, my IP. This applies to all types of rules. Custom allows you to define the range of IPs that can be connected to your server. This might be useful for geolocation and geolocking. Anywhere allows anyone with any IP to connect to your server or machine. My IP only allows your IP at the moment to connect to the server. So for SSH, it makes sense to choose only our IP because we only want us to be connected to the server. And for HTTP, we want everyone to go to our server. So we're going to choose anywhere. Now we review. Everything looks all good. Make sure everything is exactly what you want it to be. Right, we did not choose any tags. And now we launch the server. But before we can do that, we have to get a key pair. As you can see, this private key allows you to log in to your instance. For SSHing, this is important because without a key, you won't be able to log in. So, we can either use an existing key pair, I have 2 of them already, or we can generate a new one. In this case, we will generate a new one, and we will name it example key. Example_key. We have to download the private key so that Amazon knows, yes, you do have this key pair. So we'll download it. And now we can launch our instances. This is perfect. This is exactly what you want. Let's go to our view instances here. This will lead to an instance dashboard. As you can see, I have one stopped, one previous instance running, and this is the one that we just created. As you can see, because we just created it, it's still initializing and making sure everything is all good. When we see the running, we will proceed with further steps. As you can see, it is now running, which is perfect. Now, we need to make use of our key. Before we can do that, we are going to use a program called PuttyGen. This is downloaded with Putty, which you can find online. So let's use PuttyGen. And what we need to do is we need to load an existing private key file. This is our example key. Before we can do that, let's transfer our example key to our folder under Linux keys. So this is where our key is going to be at. All our keys in this example are going to be under desktop Linux keys. It's going to be named example_key.pem. Now, we're going to load that key, and you're going to see that's not visible, so we want to switch to all files so that we can see the PEM private key file. It's perfect. It's exactly what we want. Now, usually you'd include a passphrase to add an extra layer of security, but in this case, we don't need to do that, because this key is only going to be in one place, and as long as we store it in a secure location, we shouldn't have to worry about the security of our key. So we're going to save this private key as not a PEM, but a PPK. Because we don't need a passphrase, we're going to hit yes to this option. Now we're going to save this key as the same name, example key, but we're going to save it as a PPK file. So save. As you can see, it showed up right here. And now we close. This PPK file allows Putty to use that key that was in the PEM file to connect to our machine. Now we can use PuTTY. So find PuTTY, open it up, and now what we need to do is we need to first get our IP address. So this is the server that we just created. You can see in the description what the IP is. It is 52.14.95.46. So we're going to copy that. We're going to paste right here. Now we need to provide the key. In order to do that, we need to check in connections, SSH, expand SSH, select authentication. You'll notice at the bottom there is private key file for authentication. Hit browse, and then we're going to find our key, which is under Linux keys. Example key.ppk, that's what we're going to select. We're going to hit open. And now we are ready to connect. Now it's going to give you this dialog if this is your first time connecting to a server. You trust that this is a server you trust, so you're going to hit yes. Now this is important. Depending on what your machine is, the default username can be different. If it's Amazon Linux, Red Hat, or SUSE, EC2 user is the default user. Since our machine is an Amazon Linux machine, our user is going to be EC2-user. For Ubuntu, the default user is Ubuntu. So now we hit enter. And now we are in. Now this ends this phase of the tutorial. But as a small bonus, we want to add a website to this server, because we did add an HTTP option to connect to the server for anyone to see. So let's do that. Note that this tutorial is based on Amazon Linux. Instructions might vary based on the OS. First, just do as it's recommended. Sudo yum update to get the latest in performance and security updates. So let's do that. Yes. And now we're done. Now, what this needs is a web server. So now we need to install this package. We need to use sudo yum install -y httpd 24. Now we hit enter, and it's already done. Perfect. Now we have to start the web server. We do this by hitting sudo, by typing in sudo service httpd start. Now the service has been started and we have a running web server. But now we need to have a page. Now the default document base is at this address. So let's go back to the very home, because where we are at right now is not the home. So we have to go back to the very root. This is where we should be. And now we need to go to var. So we changed directory to var www/html. We hit enter. If we check, there's nothing there because we haven't put up a web page. So we're going to create a very simple web page. So choose whatever editor you like. I'm going to use Nano. And we're going to do hello.html. And now we are going to create a very simple web page. Now we have created our web page. So let's save it. Oh, there is an error here. We forgot to include sudo. So let's exit. No. And we'll do this again. Sudo nano hello.html. We're going to rewrite this simple web page. Alright, we are done. So we're going to save. And now we have our page. If you want to change the document root, we can go to our httpd.conf file at etc/httpd/conf and change what the document root to set what document root is set to. I'll show you once we test that our website is working. So first we check our IP, that's what we're going to use, 52.14.95.46. I should have it already copy pasted. And we're going to do /hello.html. As you can see, we have our title and we have our first web page. That's exactly what we wanted. So our website is working perfectly. Now, as I was alluding earlier, let's say you wanted to go back and change where the document base is. So we would need to go to etc. Etsy, however people pronounce it, httpd/conf ls. Now we're going to open up httpd.conf and I'm going to show you where you can change it if you want. Sudo nano httpd.conf. So this is it right here. Document root /var/www/html. If you want to base it somewhere else, suppose you just want to base it off the default home, EC2/user/home, you can do that. But we don't need to since we've already established a web page at this directory. That is all for this tutorial. I hope you've learned something. And as always, have a nice day.